Welcome into another Q&A, questions and alcohol. And as you know, we talk about all things alcohol, but we also talk about food and things in Kentucky and beyond. And I think this one lines up perfectly for that. But before we introduce our guest, don't forget to check us out on social media at Hop Spirits, all one word, across TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and we're also on YouTube. And you can find us at hopspirits.com. But we're here with two great guests. Britt, Director of Operations and Regional Manager, and Erin Strong, Director of Libations and Bar Standards, here to talk about Agave and Rye. Welcome in.
Thank you so much.
Now, I like the titles. Erin, I think you got the better end of that deal with Director of Libations.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody likes to talk about and have a little drink or two, right?
Now, before we get into Agave and Rye, can you tell us a little bit about y'all, what you do, and kind of your backgrounds with the larger franchise that is Agave and Rye these days?
Sure, I'll start. And we're not a franchise, so yeah, I don't think you meant to say that intentionally, but we are husband and wife owned. We started in Covington, Kentucky, February 8th of 2018. So we just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, which is super excited. Feels like 20 years, but I'm going to start wearing makeup pretty soon. But we now have 10 Agave and Rye locations, and we just opened our first steakhouse here up in Liberty Center, Ohio, called SOB, which stands for Son of a Butcher. And in my role as Director of Operations, I started as the original, what we called GM back in the day in Covington, and then I was GM of our third location in Liberty Center. And then once we opened up number 4 in Louisville, 2 weeks before COVID hit, I got pulled out of that role to oversee all the operations of the stores. And as we've grown, we've hired additional district leaders and regional leaders and kind of oversee them and the different department heads, and making sure we have as epic and smooth operations as possible. Not an easy challenge, but definitely fun. And we're blessed with such a great team and family, as we like to say.
I'm a little bit newer to the team. I was actually part of the Lexington opening, but parted ways for a little bit, but I'm now back. They saw a need to have someone oversee all of the different concepts within our Epic brands to make sure that our bar is the absolute best bar of any place you're going to go and have food and drink. And then with SOB opening up, we wanted to elevate that, make sure we have a crafts program where everything is made from scratch and with love.
Oh, I like those, and you're correct, Chris. I didn't mean to say franchise, because my next thing I was going to ask is, can you talk a little bit about Yvonne and Wade? It's Sarber, correct?
Yeah.
And just kind of, because they're the ones that created this restaurant, and then they've been able to expand it, as you said, into multiple locations. Can you talk about them and how all of this came to be in Covington, Kentucky, of all places?
Sure. Yeah, it's a fun, unique story, and a very good story for any potential entrepreneur that wants to, do that entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak. It's not as easy as a lot of people sometimes think, and Wade and Yvonne will be the first to admit that, and myself as well. We're all from, we've lived in Columbus, Ohio for many, many years prior to venturing south of the border into Kentucky. But, at one time they had owned 5 different one-off concepts there, and called Fab Dining. And Yvonne will be the first to she's pretty much the founder, right, and acting CEO. And Wade plays a valuable input to a lot of on operations. But we didn't know what we didn't know back then. And, and she likes to say the restaurant industry is hard until it's not. So back then we didn't have structure. We didn't have policies and protocols. We didn't have accountability. We didn't take into guest consideration and guest feedback. We thought what we thought was the best solution. And it wasn't the case. And we learned that the hard way. And at one point, Yvonne reached out to a restaurant coach in Texas, and he said, close or sell our existing location. So at that time, I was GM of a gourmet burger and bourbon bar in the alley in downtown Columbus. And Yvonne and Wade sold that. And they closed De Novo Bistro, which was on the Columbus Commons overlooking the park downtown, which was our first go around kind of at the fine dining aspect of restaurants. So that's what they did. And at that time, they were working on the new concept, Agave and Rye. I wanted to get out of Columbus because it's a difficult market downtown. It's a 9 to 5 city. It's dependent on a lot of variables, theater, et cetera, et cetera. And they were looking for a spot in Cincinnati, but they were driving around and went across the long trip across the bridge to Covington and stayed at Hotel Covington right there on Madison Avenue, one of the main strips in Covington, and scouted out the window to kind of gauge traffic, and they saw old called Rima's Diner on the corner of Madison and 7th there in Covington, and thought that would be a perfect spot for the next idea of Agave and Rye. And so they packed up from Columbus with $1,200 to their name, an old U-Haul of restaurant equipment and artwork and plenty of debt, and decided to pull the trigger and take on all that risk, everything they've worked hard for their entire life, and open up Agave and Rye. At that time, a tequila and bourbon hall was the main concept. We thought bar first, then restaurant second. It turned into actually being more food driven and bar second, but we're still about 60-40 in sales, food to alcohol. So pretty high, but and we opened that and no thoughts of expansion at all. But from get-go, the demand was super high. And at that, in about a year in, I think about 14 months in, we decided to adventure out and open up another one. And that's where we started that fun bus, which Erin touched on, in Lexington at the Fayette Mall there. And ever since, we did Liberty Center here in Ohio, then Louisville, and then COVID hit, but we opened 5 to 6 more locations during COVID, which speaks volumes to our guests and our team that works for us, because guests can spend their money anywhere, and they chose to spend it with us during one of the most difficult times many of us have ever seen. So at that point, we decided to be very proactive and keep the train going, and because people wanted us, and how we could provide more opportunities to team members in different communities and provide our epic experiences, so to speak, to guests in different communities they don't have access when we only had 3 to 4 locations. So now we're in 5 states, soon to be 7, with 10 locations. We have 6 to 8 more in the next 8 to 12 months ready to go. And it's very important for us never to lose that family unity feel, that mom and pop feel. Obviously, we still are very structured and very documented and regimented in what we need to do, but we allow our people, our team, to be their true authentic selves. And that's what makes the difference. When you put people over profit, you end up profiting more. It's pretty easy, but a lot of people don't do it because you have to take the time to get to know your people, get to know your team, their personal lives. They have to trust you and respect you. And it's, that's what Yvonne preaches is our core values. And every decision we make is based on those 6 core values, which allows us to accomplish our dream and our promise to our guests, community, and team members. So that's kind of the quick version, but I could go on and on.
Well, it's a crazy story, especially when you throw in COVID and the pandemic, and just how just pretty much everyone, whether it was a restaurant or a business, any type of business owner, basically had to pivot and kind of rethink things. But you also touched on this, the 6 core values, which when you think about it too, of their journey, Yvonne and Wade's journey. Well, how important are those 6 core values? And I'll read them off. Love, community, exceed expectations, epic hospitality, which epic comes through a lot in everything you guys do, and then inspire and respect. How important and how big of a role do those 6 core values play for y'all?
They are the backbone, like I mentioned, of every decision we make, every team member we bring on. It's part of our uniform policy. We print out little core value cards in English and in Spanish, because we do have a big Latino family members in a lot of our culinary operations at our kitchens. So it's very important that everyone feels inclusive to our family. We're very diverse, all races, ages, sexual orientations, whatever genders, it doesn't matter. The world kind of makes us believe that not everybody can get along. It's always us versus them, but we're out to show the industry and really the world that everyone can get along, and we're proof that does happen. And you see it in our dining rooms on our Friday night as well. It's very diverse because we do follow our core values with every decision we make, right? Love, which is treat our team members as family, placing each other's livelihood and growth above all else. A lot of companies and brands have core values and mission statements, but it's just a framed picture on the wall, right? Or written in their employee handbook. And a few weeks in, most employees, which they call them, realize that this is just another company saying what we want to hear. It's our job, which is very difficult, why most people don't do it, is to make sure we live those core values in every action that we take, in every conversation that we have. And we encourage in full transparency for anyone to call us out, any member of leadership, if we're not following our core values. However, the caveat to that is we also understand we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect. We like to say we're a perfect family of imperfect people, and it's very, very true. All those imperfections make something special and unique that you can't find many places, and that's what gives us satisfaction every day, is seeing those people that might come from all types of backgrounds, whether it's jail or poverty or abuse as a kid or financial whatever it may be, seeing them succeed and realize through self-awareness that they are better and they can achieve more with our brand, and maybe outside our doors someday. That's totally fine. We're going to support them on their lifelong journey. And so that's kind of very important to us, is that like you said, love, community, respect, inspire are very important. Then when it comes to service, exceeding expectations of our guests and our team members by providing that epic hospitality. But no one can do that if they're not their true, authentic self.
Well, and Erin, you touched on this, and it being epic, and that's kind of part of the name in and of itself. Agave and rye. If you're not thinking too much about it, you go, oh, that's just a great name. But I mean, really, being tequila and bourbon, those are what kind of goes into those. I mean, I just love the name. Is that just how simple it was for the name, or I mean, did they have the name and the concept first? How did all that come about?
We just jump
Yeah,
in.
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, basically, like I touched on earlier, we thought bar concept first, right? Tequila and bourbon hall with large selections of bourbons and tequilas, and then an epic tacos is also in our title. And people think just another taco spot, but once people come and dine with us, they understand we're not just another taco spot. It's fine dining food with put in taco as the vessel, with a vast array of tequilas and bourbons, over depending on the stores, but at minimal, each store has at least 60 tequilas and at least 60 bourbons. Some states it's easier to get, some states it's harder to get. Alabama, cough, cough. But we try to give a big selection to our community, and it's funny, a lot of people that don't, they'll call and say agave and rye, or they don't understand agave and rye, but it's very educational, and that's why Erin's brought on board as well, because we want our whole teams, bartenders, servers, whatever, to know the ins and outs of the history of bourbon, tequila. What's the difference between a silver, reposado, añejo? Now there's the extra añejo fix, and and I think that bourbon and tequila are going to be the backbone of, I think, the liquor the phase that we're in for quite some time. So we're trying to stay ahead of that curve and expand the knowledge, not of our leadership, but of the team, and give those great selections and opportunities for our guests as well. And in addition to our cocktail menu, which is also scratch made at Agave and Rye, and heavily tequila based, as our margaritas are definitely our top seller.
Well, and Erin, you're the director of Libations Bar Standards, so this one is right up your alley. How is it going about trying to find all of those tequilas, all of those bourbons, making 10 plus or so house cocktails, and making sure everyone knows what's going on? Because I feel like, one, that's a lot of options, but two, I mean, there's a lot of variety in all of that.
There is, we've all definitely faced some challenges, especially with shipping and bottle shortages and all of those different things. And bourbon is just so hot right now that it's hard to get certain companies, Buffalo Trace, Blanton's, that whole house is very, very hard to get. But that's where you use the community aspect of one of our core values, is we become good friends with the people, our suppliers, our vendors. We're letting them know that we're trying to spread this information to the community so they can enjoy these products more and more. So it makes it a lot easier to get these things. And then by educating our family members, that only spills over into our guests as well, and they become excited about it. When you can tell that background story of like George Remus bourbon or something, for example, that really inspires people to want to learn more and want to do better. So it's while it's challenging, it's not something that we can't surmount, and it's an exciting adventure every day.
And then doing the in-house cocktails. I mean, what's that like for y'all? Because I feel like that's becoming a bigger thing too. Because you can kind of get a classic margarita or something like that at most places, but most people are now kind of looking for kind of that next level of some sort. What's that like for y'all?
I think that is what SOB has allowed us to do. It's definitely allowed us to take it to the next level. So we make every syrup, puree, anything and everything that we use behind the bar, infusing different alcohols, things like that. We do it from scratch. We do it, we try to perfect it each and every single day. We make sure that we taste things and we are sharing information and sharing the love, but it's putting those extra steps into it rather than just pouring something out of a bottle that makes it extraordinary rather than ordinary.
And I love that, and you guys even do that with the food because, like you said, the taco is the vessel, but there's a whole lot of more than just kind of the typical taco feel to your food. Can y'all talk about those unique tacos that you create, those epic tacos?
Yes, epic indeed. Yeah. So people that haven't dined with us, they're thinking traditional tacos, right? But all of our tacos come double shelled, soft flour, hard corn, and they're filled from the bottom to the brim with vast of scratch made French technique cooking food, right? So we have 13. I think we have 20 epic tacos on our menu currently. 13 of those have different proteins, right? So we have lobster, you have duck, you have kangaroo, you have the traditional beef, pork, seafood, those chicken, all those tacos as well. But we'll add it to the additional step. It's not just the steak with some chile de arbol and some cheese and a garnish of a pickle. They do go, like I said, our alderman, for example, is our steak taco, or carne asada, which we grill every day, scratch, and then we top that with chile de arbol, house made. It'll give a little kick, and then our house street corn salad, Mexican street corn salad, and we top the taco as a garnish with some cotija cheese. That's one of our go-tos. We did just add what's called the sugar daddy of the plain Jane, because plain Jane is the traditional taco, because our menu can be intimidating for people that they don't know what they're getting. So that's a traditional ground beef, lettuce, sour cream, white cheddar, tomato taco. However, what we've did with that, instead of the soft and hard shell dynamic I just touched on, we do 2 grilled tortillas that we dip in our consomme, and then we layer that with cheese, white cheddar between the 2 shells and have it melt, and then we load it up with those same ingredients, and we add salsa and queso to that. It's not healthy, but it's very damn good.
I think that another wonderful thing that we do is we don't just cater to one kind of person, one kind of thing that they're trying to eat, that a vegan, a vegetarian, a pescatarian, somebody who's just a hardcore carnivore can come and enjoy a wonderful meal and not just be having to pick from 1 or 2 things, that there's so many options for so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, what when people come in and see a duck or even something like kangaroo on there, do their eyes kind of glaze over, or are they like, wait, what? How does this work? Because I mean, that's not normally what you hear.
They do, and it's some get freaked out, which is fine, and some are like, oh my god, I've never had that, I have to try this, please explain it to me. Or where's your kangaroo come from? And we tell them it's imported from Australia. So it is real. In Australia, kangaroo is similar to what the cow is here in America. It's standard, but so they do that, and then we have those 20 tacos, but we do have that large variety of not a taco options as well if you aren't in the mood for an epic taco. But 1 or 2, you're totally full. It's not the traditional one where you get those 3 corn tortillas and you need to eat all 3 and get some rice and beans as a side and get filled up, right? Or 1 to 2 tacos, you're totally, it's nap time, and you'll see people come in and be like, oh, I'm going to hammer out 3 or 4 of these, but then they're asking for a box about halfway into their dining experience.
We also make sure we continually educate our team, our family, so they can, you make it relatable to people, so it's not something scary. And you know, Agave and Rye is just such a fun atmosphere that I think it makes people want to be a little bit more adventurous, want to have a little bit more fun, and are willing to take risks. So I don't think anything strange on the menu is something that's too scary for people. They're all about it.
Well, and you talk about that feel too, because what you guys kind of, I think I read, have, what is it, urban grunge is kind of the feel that you go for. Can you explain kind of how just the look of the restaurants work? Because it's maybe a little different than you might think of for a traditional taco place.
Sure. So each of our locations, we go for the same vibe and environment, right? We use the same artists at every location. However, we do different art concepts, so to speak, or different themes. Usually, one or two are tied to the local community that we're in. But if you come in, you see big, fancy, huge chandeliers right at our restaurants, and then you look over at the wall and you see Martin Luther King, or you look over to the other wall and you see Betty White smoking a cigarette on a canvas art, right? So the goal is kind of tying back to one of our core values of Inspire, right? Is creating an inspiring environment where a team members, community, and then guests can mindfully play. So we want them every time they come in, they rave about finding something different they didn't see before, or they intentionally go to each different agave and rye just to check out the ambiance, like you touched on, some of that urban grunge feel, but tied in with some modern chic. Our furniture, is our booths and tables. We spare no expense in making sure our guests' experiences are exceeded and their expectations are exceeded. Another core value, but going back to that mindfully play is kind of tying that in with them being allowed to be their true authentic selves, not just our team members, but we want people to come in and not worry what people think about them. Dress code doesn't matter, and you'll see a table in suits and ties. You'll see an elderly couple. You'll see a family. You'll see guys in tatted, heads down, different hair color, all ages, everything dining with us, getting along because they feel comfortable, and that's our job, is to make them feel comfortable in that environment. And the art definitely helps in that aspect.
Well, and then you mentioned you're upwards of 10 locations and more on the way. How does the location change menu, or maybe what's at the bar or anything like that? How does the location kind of also play a role in everything?
Sure, yeah. So the food menu is the same at all of our locations from a consistency aspect, as is our everything on our cocktail menu as well. However, and we'll be working on this shortly. Our tequila and bourbon lists do vary from store to store, primarily more state to state, just because of different liquor laws and things that affect. But we still want to hit that minimum threshold of at least 60 tequilas and 60 bourbons. Draft beer tends to change a little bit. So we try to put a few locals in there, but we do take over second generation buildings, so they are all completely different, and we inherit. Logistically and operationally, it's challenging because things are set up differently, but it does add for the environment and the experience. But some bars we take over have 4 taps on draft, some have 12 taps on draft. So we try to take what we have and use the best of it. We do have our cores, and same with canned beer and bottled beer, but but pretty much everything's the same, just depending on local regulations.
And then you touched on this too. The new concept, SOB Son of a Butcher, is up and running now. I think maybe a week old or so, if I'm correct on that.
I think last Thursday was our opening day. Yeah, I got pushed back a few days due to some local regulations again. Favorite word. But yeah, we're here thriving and learning and growing every day and providing more epic experiences to our guests in a fine dining setting, which has kind of been stagnant and growing old over the last decade. I'd say you see a lot of closures from fine dining restaurants. The industry seems to be trending, those casual, you walk up counter and order and go types of things, and a lot of carry out and things to that effect. So you don't see many new concepts in fine dining open. There's an established crew that kind of controls the market, but they're all the same experience, kind of, not throwing them under the bus. They do very, very well. And definitely, we can learn from them, but most of them have that perception or stereotype of stuffiness and pretentiousness. You have to have a lot of money to go there. You have to dress up, white tablecloth, and those types of things. So we're providing that same quality of food and service, but once again, allowing our team to be themselves. We're not going to have that scripted robotic tableside service. It's not who we are. And the food's not going to be your standard steakhouse food. We're going to have the high quality, and some of it's expensive, but you get what you pay for. And we have those 8 different steak options, plus plenty of other options as well, a large bar menu, a large wine list. But we want the guests to be able to, kind of what we did with Agave and Rye in that modern day restaurant, but to do that to the steakhouse, and where you walk in and you right away know it's not a traditional steakhouse. You see all that artwork we've explained. You see a bathtub to your left when you walk in that you can hop in and drink a margarita if you want, and post a picture on Instagram. I don't know the last time people have been to a traditional steakhouse and take a bunch of pictures and post to their Instagram. It's just not a thing. But here they do, because they're in awe. However, when they're in awe, those expectations go up, and that service and food have to hit in order to exceed those expectations, because the bar has been raised, especially having, the community here in Cincinnati knows Agave and Rye is an established brand and concept that does very, very well. So they have high expectations walking into the door, especially with the price points and the environment that they're in. It's our job to still strive to exceed their expectations without that stuffiness that you get at a traditional steakhouse.
And Erin, how does Son of a Butcher kind of play with your side of things? Because it sounded like you guys are able to maybe do a little bit more and be a little more creative, and kind of have a little more fun on the bar side.
Yeah, absolutely. For example, we have a cocktail called Curiouser and Curiouser. So it's an Alice in Wonderland themed cocktail. It's an eat me, drink me cocktail. So you'll be given a spicy, tart Jello shot to start off your day as your eat me part, and then you finish up with something that's a little bit sweeter and color changing to keep it interesting for you to drink. So we wanted to take it to the next level. The garnishes are over the top, the drinks are over the top, but they're still approachable for people. There's nothing too scary on the menu that they're like, what is this crazy ingredient or anything like that. It's things that people can recognize and just taste really good.
Is that one of your favorite parts, is being able to try everything?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of the best parts of my job. Absolutely. It makes it not even like a job. I get to go on vacation every day and have a little sip of something and try something and try to find the next big thing and something that guests are going to be absolutely wowed by.
And then, you touched on this too. You got a whole bunch of things kind of coming down the pipes as far as more locations for Agave and Rye. Is that just kind of what's next for y'all, is just build on what you have and make things more epic?
Sure. Yeah, we have, it's already March. This year's flying by, but we're excited about our next location, Columbus. Like I mentioned, it's kind of homecoming for Wade and Yvonne, and somewhat to myself. I'm a Buckeye grad, so it's always good to go back where I made bad choices as a mid 20-year-old, but early 20s. Gee, it'd be bad if I was in my mid 20s and probably still in college. But so it's homecoming for us there. We're super excited there in Grandview, and then a few more in Ohio. We get to go up on Lake Erie in Cleveland, downtown, and then Perrysburg, which is by Toledo, northern Ohio, and then Indianapolis is that's our first build from scratch up. So that's going to be super exciting, right downtown between the two stadiums there as well. And then we're going to try to start some southward expansion, kind of plug some stores maybe in Tennessee to kind of, we have Chattanooga already, but more Nashville, Knoxville-ish, and then potentially maybe another one in Birmingham, since we have one in Huntsville, Alabama already. And then we might want to end the year in the Atlanta market as well. And we have a ton of people that it's funny, because when you walk around and we're required to do table touches, as leadership because we want to, not because we have to, and to get that feedback from the guests. And we get a lot of people from out of town or different cities, a lot from Atlanta and Nashville, or even Columbus, when are you coming here? When are you coming here? And I get a million emails a day about, hey, can you come to Seattle, Washington, or wherever it may be? Like, eventually, but we have to be smart about it. We're not, we are, like we mentioned with those core values, right? A lot of companies, when they grow, they forget what got them to where they're at and allowed them to be successful. So, and like with our challenges we've had in Columbus, we know how quickly you can be unsuccessful. And so we're very smart with what we do. However, we're still going to move quickly, but we know what we need to do in order to ensure our core values are always at the backbone and forefront of every decision we make. And then, hopefully next year we can expand maybe some more Son of a Butchers. And you did mention franchise, and we are going to open up another concept probably early next year where we do provide franchise opportunities for our team members. It's called Papi Ocho's, which is an authentic Mexican side where it's going to be a fast food model. So once again, the fast food market's kind of getting stale as well. And this is quality food, scratch made as well, which you don't get in fast food. And then as you drive through, after you place your order and the dual lines, it's all going to be glass where you can actually look in and see your food being prepared like you're on the streets of Mexico. So it's going to be, we're super excited about that. And those are going to be provided to own by our current team members if they complete a process, and we're going to pay for that franchise fee for them, because everyone needs an opportunity and a chance, and very few people actually get it. And it's our job to provide those to those that deserve that and reciprocate the want and share those same core values that we do.
That is awesome. And just from you two talking, I mean, Chris, you've been with them from the start, and Erin, I mean, you went from down in Lexington in those openings to now running the kind of the bar operations and so forth for it all. So you can see the teamwork and the family mentality, and agaverye.com for more on them and social media as well. And Chris and Erin, thank you for sharing about Agave Rye. And now I'm very hungry, and I might have to go have lunch.
Please. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
talking with you.